Alright, man, pull up a chair. You won't believe the crap I've been going through lately. It's like something ripped straight out of a thriller, you know? So, Emily, she was my wife. My first wife. We were together for 7 years, built a whole life here in Denver. She was an artist, full of life, always seeing the world in this vibrant, crazy way that I loved. Then, 5 years ago, everything changed. She was killed in a car accident. Just like that. One minute she was here, laughing, planning our future, and the next, gone. It ripped me apart, man. For years, I was just going through the motions, a ghost in my own life. Then, about 3 years later, Sarah came along. She was a breath of fresh air, you know? Calm, steady. She helped me find my footing again, showed me that maybe there was still some light left in the world. We built a good life together here in Denver. Nice little house, 2 cars, the whole 9 yards. I really thought I was finally done with all the heavy stuff, that the universe had finally cut me some slack. I was happy, or at least I thought I was. Then, a couple of weeks ago, I was cleaning out the attic. Boxes and boxes of old junk, mostly Emily's things. I hadn't really gone through it properly before. It was just too damn hard. But Sarah's been gently pushing me, saying it might help to let go of some of it. So there I am, dust flying everywhere, and I stumble across this old shoebox. Inside, there's a bunch of Emily's old cassette tapes. Remember those? And a little portable recorder. I hadn't seen that thing in ages. Curiosity got the better of me, I guess. I popped one of the tapes in, not even looking at the label. And then I heard her voice. Emily's voice. It hit me like a punch to the gut, man. It was so clear, so alive. For a few minutes, I just sat there, frozen, listening to her talking about her day, little things, you know? What she had for lunch, how her painting was going. Normal stuff. Then, her voice changed. It got softer, almost like she was whispering. And then she said it. She said she was seeing someone else. That she was in love with him. Just like that. Out of the blue. 5 years, man. 5 years I've been carrying this grief, thinking I knew her, thinking we had this great love story, and all along she was keeping this from me. I felt like the ground just disappeared from under me. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage, about Emily, it was all a lie. I just sat there, holding that stupid cassette player, and I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. But that's not even the weirdest part. A few days after finding the tape, I was looking for some old tax documents in my filing cabinet. Tucked away in a folder I hadn't opened in years, I found an envelope. Inside was a letter. An anonymous letter. It was addressed to me, and it was postmarked just a few weeks after Emily died. The handwriting was shaky, almost frantic. And the words were threatening. Not like, "I'm gonna hurt you," kind of threats, but more like warnings. "You're better off not digging too deep," it said. "Some things are best left buried." I remember feeling this cold dread wash over me when I first read it back then, but I just chalked it up to some sicko trying to mess with a grieving widower. I filed it away and tried to forget about it. But seeing it again now, after hearing the tape, something clicked. The way the letters were formed, it looked familiar. Really familiar. And then it hit me. The handwriting, it looked a lot like Sarah's. Sarah's. My Sarah. The woman I thought I knew, the woman who helped me heal. Could she possibly be connected to all of this? It sounds crazy, I know. But that feeling in my gut, it won't go away. I'm telling you, man, this is just the beginning. So, after finding that letter, I couldn't just sit there, right? I mean, my dead wife confessing to cheating on me, and then this creepy anonymous letter that looks like it was written by my current wife? It was like the universe was screaming at me that something was seriously wrong. I tried to push it down, tell myself it was just stress, grief playing tricks on my mind. But the feeling wouldn't go away. It was like a constant buzzing in the back of my head. The handwriting thing really messed with me. I started paying more attention to Sarah's writing. Little notes she'd leave on the fridge, her grocery lists. I'd find myself staring at the way she formed her T-S, the curve of her S-S. And the more I looked, the more similarities I saw with that damn anonymous letter. It was driving me crazy. I even took the letter out of the filing cabinet a few times when Sarah wasn't around, just to compare them side by side. My heart would pound in my chest, this cold knot of dread tightening in my stomach. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Accusing your wife of something like that, especially when she's been nothing but supportive to you after such a loss, it felt wrong. But the doubt was like a poison seeping into our life. I started being more distant, more quiet. Sarah noticed, of course. She kept asking me what was wrong, if I was okay. I just mumbled something about being tired, stressed at the hospital. I couldn't bring myself to tell her what I'd found, what I was thinking. The words just wouldn't come out. One evening, Sarah had an early start for a site visit out of town. She kissed me goodbye, a little too quickly maybe, and rushed out the door, saying she'd be back late. After she left, a strange feeling washed over me. It was like a window of opportunity had opened, a chance to find out something while she wasn't around. I tried to shake it off, but the image of that message notification kept nagging at me. Later that morning, I remembered Sarah mentioning she needed to print out some documents for her meeting, and that our printer was acting up. She said she'd try to do it from her laptop instead. A thought struck me. She often left her old phone charging in the kitchen drawer, the one she used before we upgraded. It still had a Wi-Fi connection. My heart started pounding. It was a long shot, but maybe, just maybe. I went to the kitchen and opened the drawer. And there it was. Her old phone, plugged in and charging. It was locked with a passcode, but I'd seen her type it in countless times. My hands were shaking as I tried, and on the third attempt, it opened. I went straight to her messages. There it was. A thread with Mark. My heart hammered in my chest as I opened it. It went back months. Pages and pages of messages. At first, they seemed innocent enough, just friendly banter, talking about music, sharing articles. But then, the tone shifted. The messages became more personal, more intimate. There were late-night exchanges, emojis with hearts and kisses. And then, there were mentions of meeting up. "Can't wait to see you on Tuesday," one message read. Another, "Thinking about our weekend." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. It was happening. She was seeing him. My wife was having an affair. The betrayal cut deep, deeper than I could have imagined. It wasn't just about the physical act. It was the lies, the deception, the feeling that the woman I loved, the woman I had built a life with, was a complete stranger. But then, as I scrolled further back, something else caught my eye. Some of the earlier messages were different. Colder. Almost strained. There were mentions of the past and what happened. And then, a message from Sarah that sent a shiver down my spine. "He's starting to ask questions again. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up." He? Who was he? Was she talking about me? Asking questions about what? And then, another message from Mark. "Just stick to the plan. It's almost over." The plan? What plan? My mind was racing, trying to piece together these fragments. It wasn't just a simple affair. There was something else going on here, something darker, something more complicated. I copied some of the key messages and numbers down, my hands still trembling. I couldn't just confront Sarah with this. Not yet. I needed to understand what the plan was, who he was, and what the past they were referring to. This wasn't just about my marriage anymore. It felt like I had stumbled into something much bigger, something potentially dangerous. I knew I had to be careful. One wrong move, and everything could fall apart. And I had a terrible feeling that whatever was going on, it was somehow connected to Emily. The tape, the anonymous letter, Sarah's secret messages, it all felt intertwined, like pieces of a puzzle I was only just beginning to see. And I had a sinking feeling that the final picture was going to be a nightmare. Boulder. The name kept echoing in my head. Mark. A music store in Boulder. It was a long shot, I knew, but I had to follow it. I couldn't just sit at home, stewing in my own paranoia. I needed answers, even if I didn't like what they might be. So, the next Saturday, I told Sarah I had a conference downtown and drove out to Boulder. It's about a 30-minute drive from Denver, a nice little college town, usually pretty laid back. I spent the morning wandering around, popping into different music stores. There were a few of them, mostly catering to the college crowd with guitars and band equipment. I showed Sarah's picture around, a recent one from our anniversary. Most of the people I talked to didn't recognize her. I was starting to feel like I was on a wild goose chase, wasting my time. But then, in this small, dusty little shop tucked away on a side street, the guy behind the counter looked up and his eyes widened slightly. "Yeah," he said slowly. "I think I remember her. She used to come in here a few years back, always looking at the vintage vinyl." He paused, thinking. "She was usually with a guy. Tall, kind of lanky, with longish hair. Played guitar, I think." Mark. It had to be him. I felt a jolt, a mix of relief that I wasn't completely crazy and a fresh wave of unease. "Do you remember his name?" I asked, my voice a little shaky. The guy shrugged. "Mark, maybe? Something like that. It was a while ago." He frowned, trying to recall more. "He had this old Gibson, a real beauty. Used to talk about his music a lot." I thanked him and left the store, my head spinning. So Sarah knew this guy, Mark. And it sounded like it was more than just a casual acquaintance. The entries in her old notebook, the messages on her phone, they all pointed to a deeper connection. What if this relationship hadn't really ended? What if it had just gone underground? As I drove back to Denver, my mind raced. I kept replaying Sarah's reactions to things, trying to find hidden meanings. Had there been little slips, things I dismissed as nothing at the time? I started to doubt everything. Our conversations, our intimacy, was it all real? Or was she just going through the motions, her heart still with someone else? The good memories of our life together felt tainted now, overshadowed by the growing suspicion and the weight of her secrets. That night, Sarah seemed a little distant. I asked her about her day, and she gave me vague answers about work. She didn't mention her book club from the other night, which was odd. Usually, she'd tell me all about their discussions. I tried to act normal, clinging to the hope that I was wrong, that there was a logical explanation for everything. But the knot in my stomach wouldn't loosen. I wanted to ask her about Mark, about Boulder, about everything I'd found, but the words caught in my throat. I was afraid of what she might say, afraid of confirming my worst fears. Then, as we were getting ready for bed, I noticed something on her phone. It was a message notification. Just a name. Mark. My stomach clenched. I tried to act casual, but my eyes kept flicking back to her phone. She picked it up, glanced at the message, and a small, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips before she quickly put the phone down. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. "Oh, just a work thing," she said, a little too quickly. "Something about a project." "A work thing? At 10 o'clock at night?" And the smile? It didn't look like a work smile. I knew right then, in that moment, that my gut feeling was right. Something was definitely going on. And it had something to do with Mark. I just didn't know the full extent of it yet. But I was going to find out. I had to. My whole life felt like it was hanging in the balance. Sleep didn't come easy that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the name on Sarah's phone, Mark. And that small, secretive smile. It was like a brand seared into my brain. I tossed and turned, replaying every interaction with Sarah in my head, searching for clues I might have missed. Had she always been this, guarded? Had I just been too blind to see it? The good memories of our early relationship now felt like a cruel facade, potentially masking a deeper deception. The next morning, Sarah had an early start for a site visit out of town. She kissed me goodbye, a little too quickly maybe, and rushed out the door, saying she'd be back late. After she left, a strange feeling washed over me. It was like a window of opportunity had opened, a chance to find out something while she wasn't around. The image of that message notification kept nagging at me. Later that morning, I remembered Sarah mentioning she needed to print out some documents for her meeting, and that our printer was acting up. She said she tried to do it from her laptop instead. A thought struck me. She often left her old phone charging in the kitchen drawer, the one she used before we upgraded. It still had a Wi-Fi connection. My heart started pounding. It was a long shot, but maybe, just maybe. I went to the kitchen and opened the drawer. And there it was. Her old phone, plugged in and charging. It was locked with a passcode, but I'd seen her type it in countless times. My hands were shaking as I tried, and on the third attempt, it opened. I went straight to her messages. There it was. A thread with Mark. My heart hammered in my chest as I opened it. It went back months. Pages and pages of messages. At first, they seemed innocent enough, just friendly banter, talking about music, sharing articles. But then, the tone shifted. The messages became more personal, more intimate. There were late-night exchanges, emojis with hearts and kisses. And then, there were mentions of meeting up. "Can't wait to see you on Tuesday," one message read. Another, "Thinking about our weekend." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. It was happening. She was seeing him. My wife was having an affair. The betrayal cut deep, deeper than I could have imagined. It wasn't just about the physical act. It was the lies, the deception, the feeling that the woman I loved, the woman I had built a life with, was a complete stranger. The good times we shared now felt like a cruel mockery. But then, as I scrolled further back, something else caught my eye. Some of the earlier messages were different. Colder. Almost strained. There were mentions of the past and what happened. And then, a message from Sarah that sent a shiver down my spine. "He's starting to ask questions again. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up." He? Who was he? Was she talking about me? Asking questions about what? And then, another message from Mark. "Just stick to the plan. It's almost over." The plan? What plan? My mind was racing, trying to piece together these fragments. It wasn't just a simple affair. There was something else going on here, something darker, something more complicated. I copied some of the key messages and numbers down, my hands still trembling. I couldn't just confront Sarah with this. Not yet. I needed to understand what the plan was, who he was, and what the past they were referring to. This wasn't just about my marriage anymore. It felt like I had stumbled into something much bigger, something potentially dangerous. I knew I had to be careful. One wrong move, and everything could fall apart. And I had a terrible feeling that whatever was going on, it was somehow connected to Emily. The tape, the anonymous letter, Sarah's secret messages, it all felt intertwined, like pieces of a puzzle I was only just beginning to see. and I had a sinking feeling that the final picture was going to be a nightmare. The initial shock of the affair was slowly giving way to a cold, creeping dread. After copying those messages, I felt this hollow emptiness inside. The confirmation of the affair was like a punch to the gut, but the mention of a plan and the past, that was the part that really chilled me. It felt like I was peering into something much darker than just a broken marriage. The good memories I had of Sarah now felt tainted, overshadowed by the image of her secret exchanges with Mark. I knew I couldn't just confront Sarah. I needed more information. I thought about going to the police, but what would I tell them? My wife is having an affair and mentioned a plan in her texts. They'd laugh me out of the station. I needed something more concrete, something that tied it all together. The tape, the letter, Sarah, and this. Mark. The music store in Boulder. That was the only real lead I had. I decided to go back, hoping the guy behind the counter might remember more about Mark. Maybe he knew where he lived, what kind of car he drove, anything that could give me a starting point. I drove back to Boulder the next day, feeling like a private investigator in some cheap detective novel. The guy at the music store was there again. I showed him the picture of Sarah again, and then I described the guy he'd mentioned. Tall, lanky, longish hair, played a Gibson. He scratched his head. Yeah, that sounds like Mark. Nice guy, seemed really into music. He used to play some gigs around town, mostly small clubs and bars. He paused. You know, I think he mentioned living over in the student housing area, near the university. That was something. Not a specific address, but a general area. I spent the rest of the day driving around the university district, looking for anyone who fit the description. It was a long shot, like finding a needle in a haystack. I went into coffee shops, bars, even knocked on a few doors, showing Sarah's picture and asking if anyone knew Mark. Most people were students, and they didn't recognize either of them. The hope I had started with was slowly dwindling. Just as I was about to give up, I walked into a small, dimly lit bar near campus. There was a guy on a small stage tuning a guitar, an old Gibson. He was tall, lanky, with longish hair pulled back in a ponytail. My heart skipped a beat. It had to be him. I ordered a beer and sat at the bar, trying to act casual while I watched him. During his break, I walked over and struck up a conversation, pretending to be interested in his guitar. We talked about music for a bit, and then I casually dropped the name. Sarah! His reaction was subtle, almost imperceptible. A flicker in his eyes, a slight tightening of his jaw. But it was enough. He knew her. You know Sarah? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. He hesitated for a moment. Yeah, I used to. A long time ago. We're married, I said, the words feeling strange and heavy on my tongue. His eyes widened this time. A look of surprise, maybe even a little fear, flashed across his face. Married? Wow. I didn't know. I decided to push a little harder. We live in Denver. She mentioned you lived in Boulder. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I've been here for a while. She also mentioned some things from the past, I said, watching his reaction closely. He became guarded, his eyes darting around the room. Look, man, whatever Sarah told you, it was a long time ago. It's in the past. It has nothing to do with now. But his nervousness told a different story. He was hiding something. Something big. And I had a feeling it wasn't just about an old flame. There was something else connecting him to Sarah, something that made him so uneasy. And I was determined to find out what it was. I had a feeling that Mark held the key to unlocking the secrets surrounding Emily's death and the strange hold Sarah seemed to have on the past. The good memories of Sarah were fading, replaced by a growing sense of unease and the burning need for the truth. Nothing to do with now? I repeated, trying to sound casual, but feeling a knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. Sarah seemed pretty affected when she mentioned you. That was a lie, of course. She hadn't mentioned him directly to me, but I needed to see his reaction. The image of Sarah's secretive smile when she received his text was still fresh in my mind, casting a shadow over all our interactions. Mark's face tightened. He took a long swig of his beer. "Look, man," he said, his voice low. "Sarah and we had something a long time ago. It didn't end well. It was messy. But that's it. It's over. She moved on, and so did I." His words sounded rehearsed, too smooth. I didn't believe him for a second. "Messy how?" I pressed. "What happened?" He hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "It's personal. Between me and her. It was a long time ago, before you knew her." "Before I knew her?" I echoed. That struck me as odd. Sarah and I had been together for 3 years. How long ago was this? Messy. Breakup? It felt like there were missing pieces in the timeline, gaps that Sarah hadn't filled. "Yeah," he said quickly. "Years. Before she moved to Denver, even." That didn't make sense. Sarah had lived in Denver for years, long before we met. Something wasn't adding up. He was lying. I could feel it in my gut. The good memories of Sarah felt increasingly distant, overshadowed by this growing sense of deception. "Sarah's lived in Denver for a long time," I said slowly, watching his reaction. He shifted uncomfortably on his stool. Right. I meant before you guys got serious." He was stumbling over his words now, and I could see the panic in his eyes. "So what exactly was so messy that you still can't talk about it?" I pushed. He stood up abruptly. "Look, man, I gotta get back to my set. Nice talking to you." He turned and practically bolted back to the stage, grabbing his guitar. I watched him go, my mind racing. He was definitely hiding something, and it had to be connected to Sarah. The way he reacted, the lies, it all pointed to a shared secret. The warmth I once felt for Sarah was cooling, replaced by a cold, hard suspicion. I decided to stick around for his set. Maybe I could learn something from his music, some hint of their past. But his songs were mostly bluesy ballads, nothing that seemed particularly revealing. After his set, I tried to talk to him again, but he was evasive, packing up his equipment quickly and making excuses about having to leave. I could tell he wanted to get away from me as fast as possible. Frustrated, I drove back to Denver. I hadn't gotten any concrete answers, but I knew one thing for sure. Mark was a key piece of this puzzle. And whatever his past with Sarah was, it wasn't as simple as a messy breakup. The image of Sarah, the woman I thought I knew, was beginning to crack, revealing a stranger beneath. That night, Sarah came home late, just like she said. She seemed tired but otherwise normal. I tried to act normal too, clinging to the remnants of our past happiness, but it was hard. Every time I looked at her, I saw that message on her phone, Mark's nervous face in the bar. The good memories felt like a fading dream. Later, as we were lying in bed, I decided to try a different approach. "You know," I said casually, "I was thinking about going up to Boulder this weekend. Maybe check out some of those antique shops you like." Her reaction was immediate. She stiffened beside me. "Why Boulder?" she asked, her voice tight. "Just thought it would be a nice change of pace," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. "There's nothing for us in Boulder," she said quickly. "Let's just stay here." Her defensiveness was a red flag. Why was she so against going to Boulder? Was it because of Mark? The good times we shared seemed like a distant memory compared to this growing unease. "Did you know someone in Boulder?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. She hesitated for a long moment. "A long time ago," she finally said, her voice barely a whisper. Before I met you. Someone named Mark. I pressed. She went completely still. Her back was to me, and I couldn't see her face. The silence in the room was deafening. Then, finally, she spoke, her voice flat. Yes, I knew a Mark in Boulder. The good foundation of our relationship was starting to crumble under the weight of her concealed past. What happened between you two? I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. She didn't answer. The silence stretched out, thick and heavy with unspoken words. I knew, in that moment, that whatever had happened between Sarah and Mark in Boulder, it was far from over. And I had a terrible feeling that it was somehow connected to the secrets surrounding Emily's death. The pieces were starting to move, slowly clicking into place, and the picture that was forming was more disturbing than I could have ever imagined. The good memories of Sarah were fading, replaced by a chilling sense of the unknown. The silence in the bedroom felt thick enough to cut with a knife. Sarah lay there, her back to me, a solid wall of unspoken words. I waited, every nerve in my body on edge, for her to say something, anything, that would shed some light on her past with Mark. The good memories of our life together felt fragile now, easily shattered by the weight of this unspoken history. But the silence stretched on, punctuated only by the sound of our breathing. Finally, I couldn't take it any more. Sarah, I said, my voice low and strained. What happened with Mark? She sighed deeply, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of years. Slowly, she turned to face me. Her eyes were dark, troubled. It was a long time ago, David. Before I knew what real love was. The contrast between her words and the secretive messages on her phone was stark, making those good memories feel like a cruel illusion. But what was it? I persisted. Why did you react so strongly when I mentioned Boulder? Why didn't you tell me about him before? She hesitated again, her gaze flickering away from mine. It was complicated. It ended badly. I just wanted to forget about it, to move on. Messy, Mark had said. It didn't end well. Their stories aligned on that one point, at least. But I still felt like I was missing a huge chunk of the truth, a truth that seemed to be poisoning the good parts of our past. Was it just a breakup? I asked, trying to keep the suspicion out of my voice. Is that why you didn't want to go to Boulder? She nodded slowly. Yes, that's all it was. I don't want to dredge up old memories. But I didn't believe her. There was something in her eyes, a flicker of something deeper, something darker. And then there were those messages on her old phone, the talk of a plan, the worry about him, asking questions. These fragments chipped away at the foundation of our relationship, making those happy memories feel increasingly like a dream. Sarah, I said, my voice firmer now, I saw your messages. Her eyes widened in shock, and all the color drained from her face. You went through my phone? Your old phone, I corrected her. The one in the kitchen drawer. I saw the messages with Mark. The silence returned, but this time it was charged with tension, with fear. I watched as a single tear rolled down her cheek. The good times we shared felt like they belonged to a different reality, one where secrets didn't lurk beneath the surface. David, she whispered, her voice trembling. Please, let me explain. I waited, my arms crossed, my heart a cold, hard knot in my chest. The warmth of our past was rapidly fading, replaced by the icy grip of betrayal. She took a shaky breath. Mark and I, we were very close. In college. It was intense, passionate, but also volatile. We hurt each other a lot. Is that it? I asked, my voice flat. She shook her head. No. There was something else. Something that happened towards the end. Something that changed everything. The good memories felt like a distant shore, as I navigated this treacherous new landscape of her past. She paused, as if the words were caught in her throat. I waited, my patience wearing thin. There was an accident, she finally said, her voice barely audible. A car accident. He was driving, and someone got hurt. A car accident. Emily? My mind flashed back to the news reports, the vague details I tried to block out for so long. The good times with Sarah felt like a betrayal of Emily's memory now. Who got hurt? I asked, my voice a low growl. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. It was Emily. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Emily? Mark was involved in the accident that killed Emily? And Sarah knew him back then? The good memories with Sarah felt like a cruel joke. What? I choked out. What are you talking about? Mark and Emily, they knew each other, Sarah said, her voice trembling. They were friends. He gave her a ride home from a party that night. And there was an accident. The foundation of our relationship, those good memories, felt like they were built on quicksand. My mind was reeling. This couldn't be happening. It was too much of a coincidence. And you knew Mark then? I asked, my voice shaking. She nodded, tears streaming down her face now. Yes. We were together. He was my boyfriend. The pieces were starting to fall into place, forming a horrifying picture. Sarah knew Mark. Mark was involved in the accident that killed Emily. And Sarah had kept all of this from me for 3 years. The good memories felt like a lie. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, the betrayal a bitter taste in my mouth. Why keep this a secret? She sobbed. I was scared, David. Scared of what you would think. Scared of losing you. But the fear of losing me hadn't stopped her from lying to me, from keeping this massive secret that connected her to the death of my first wife. The good times felt like a distant, unattainable dream now. And the anonymous letter? I asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. The one I got after Emily died? The handwriting, it looked like yours. She flinched. David, did you write it, Sarah? I demanded. Did you tell me to stop digging? Her silence was my answer. I stared at her, the woman I thought I knew, the woman I had loved, and I saw a stranger. A stranger with secrets, secrets that had the power to shatter everything. And I had a terrible feeling that I had only scratched the surface of the truth. The good memories were fading fast, replaced by the cold reality of her deception. The revelation that Mark was involved in Emily's accident hit me like a physical blow. It felt like the world had tilted on its axis, and everything I thought I knew was a lie. Even the good memories of Sarah, the ones I had cherished, now felt tainted by this connection to my past tragedy. And then there was the anonymous letter. Sarah's silence was a deafening confession. She had tried to warn me off, to keep me from uncovering something she clearly wanted buried. Why, Sarah? I asked, my voice raw with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Why would you write that letter? What were you trying to protect? She was crying openly now, her body shaking with sobs. I was scared, David. So scared. After the accident, it was awful. There were investigations, questions. Mark was a mess. And I just wanted it all to go away. I didn't want you to get dragged into it. Dragged into what? I demanded. My wife died in an accident involving your ex-boyfriend, and you think I shouldn't be dragged into it? The good times with Sarah felt like a betrayal of Emily's memory. She flinched at my harsh tone. I know it sounds awful, David, but I was young and I panicked. I just wanted to protect Mark. Protect Mark? The man who was behind the wheel when my wife died? The man she had a messy past with? A sickening thought twisted in my gut. And you've been seeing him again, haven't you? I asked, the suspicion heavy in my voice. Those messages on your phone. It wasn't just old friends catching up, was it? The good memories of our life together felt like a cruel illusion. She hesitated, her eyes darting around the room as if looking for an escape. David, it's not what you think. Then what is it, Sarah? I pressed, my voice rising. Those late-night messages, the secret smiles, what was that about? She finally broke down, her shoulders slumping. He reached out a few months ago. He was having a hard time. With his music, with everything that happened, with Emily. And you decided to comfort him? I asked, the sarcasm dripping from my words. The good memories felt like a distant shore. She shook her head vehemently. No, it wasn't like that. We just talked. About the past. About everything. But I didn't believe her. There was a defensiveness in her eyes that told a different story. And those messages about meeting up? I challenged. What were those about, Sarah? She hesitated again, her gaze falling to her hands. There were a couple of times when he was really low. He just needed someone to talk to, someone who understood. And you were that someone? I asked, the betrayal a bitter taste in my mouth. Even though you're married to me? The good times felt like a fading dream. Tears streamed down her face. It was a mistake, David. It didn't mean anything. It was just a moment of weakness. A connection to the past. A moment of weakness? A connection to the past that involved the man responsible for my first wife's death? The man she had a passionate history with? It felt like a slap in the face. The good memories felt like a lie. And you never thought to tell me any of this? I asked, the anger rising in my chest. The accident, your history with Mark, these moments of weakness? She shook her head, sobbing. I was scared, David. Scared of what you would think. Scared of losing you. The weight of her secrets, the layers of deception, it was suffocating. I looked at her, the woman I had built a life with, and I felt a profound sense of loss. Not just the potential loss of our future, but the loss of the image I had of her. The woman I loved had not only kept a monumental secret about my first wife's death and her ongoing connection to Mark, but she had also betrayed me in the present with the very person connected to that tragedy. The pain was immense, a crushing weight on my chest. The good memories of Sarah were fading fast, replaced by the cold reality of her deception. I knew, in that moment, that everything had changed irrevocably. The foundation of our marriage had crumbled, and I was left standing amidst the ruins, trying to comprehend the depth of her deception. The question now wasn't just about the past. It was about whether there was any future left for us at all. The rest of the night was a blur of accusations, denials, and tears. Sarah insisted that her encounters with Mark had been brief, driven by his emotional distress and her own misguided sense of obligation to their shared past. She swore that it was over, that it had been a mistake she deeply regretted. But her words felt hollow, lost in the echo chamber of her years of silence and deception. The good memories of our life together offered no comfort, overshadowed by the stark reality of her betrayal. I couldn't sleep. I spent the night pacing the living room, my mind racing, trying to reconcile the woman I thought I knew with the stranger who had been living beside me. How could she have kept such a monumental secret? How could she have sought comfort in the arms of the man connected to Emily's death? And the anonymous letter? It was a constant, nagging reminder of her attempts to control the narrative, to keep me in the dark. The foundation of trust in our relationship had been irrevocably shattered. The next morning, the silence between us was heavy and suffocating. Sarah looked pale and exhausted, her eyes red and swollen. I knew we couldn't continue like this. We needed to talk, really talk, about everything that had been revealed. The good memories felt like a distant dream, unattainable now. I need to understand, Sarah, I said, my voice weary. Why Mark? Why him, of all people? She sighed, running a hand through her disheveled hair. It's hard to explain, David. We shared a significant part of our lives. There was a bond there, even after everything that happened. When he reached out, he was in a really dark place. I felt responsible, I guess. Stupid, looking back on it. The good times offered no solace against this stark reality. Responsible for what? I asked, my voice sharp. For the accident? For Emily's death? She flinched. No, of course not. But I was there. I saw what it did to him. And I felt guilty too, in a way. Guilty for what, Sarah? I pressed. She hesitated, her eyes filling with tears again. Guilty for surviving. Guilty that Emily didn't make it. Her words surprised me. It was a perspective I hadn't considered. But it didn't excuse the lies, the betrayal. The good memories felt like a betrayal of Emily's memory. And the affair? I asked, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. Was that guilt too? She shook her head vehemently. No, David. That was a mistake. A moment of weakness, like I said. It didn't mean anything. It was about the past, not about my feelings for you. But how could I believe her? How could I separate her past with Mark, so deeply intertwined with the tragedy of Emily's death, from our present? It felt like our entire relationship had been built on a foundation of secrets and lies. The good times felt like a cruel mockery. I don't know what to do, Sarah, I confessed, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. She reached out to me, her hand trembling. Please, David, let me try to fix this. I know I've hurt you deeply, but I love you. I don't want to lose you. The good memories offered no anchor in this storm of betrayal. Her words were a plea, but they didn't penetrate the wall of hurt and confusion that surrounded me. The revelations of the past few days had shattered my perception of our life together. The woman I loved was connected to the death of my first wife in ways I could never have imagined, and she had betrayed me with him in the present. The good times felt like a distant, unattainable dream. I knew I needed time to process everything, time to decide if there was any way forward for us. The easy answer would be to walk away, to end the pain and the uncertainty. But a part of me, the part that still remembered the good times with Sarah, the part that had found solace in her arms after Emily's death, was hesitant. Was it possible to forgive such a deep betrayal? Could we ever rebuild the trust that had been so completely broken? I simply didn't know. And the uncertainty was a heavy burden to bear. The good memories felt fragile, threatened by the overwhelming weight of her deception. The days that followed were filled with a strained silence. We existed in the same house, shared the same meals, but an invisible chasm had opened between us. Sarah tried to talk, to explain, to apologize. But her words felt inadequate against the weight of her actions. Every time I looked at her, I saw not just the woman I loved, but the woman who had lied to me, who had sought solace with the man connected to Emily's death, who had tried to manipulate me with that anonymous letter. The good memories of our life together now felt tainted, like a beautiful picture with a dark stain spreading across it. I found myself withdrawing, spending more time at the hospital, burying myself in work. It was a way to escape the constant turmoil in my head, the endless loop of questions and doubts. Our entire relationship felt tainted, poisoned by her secrets. The good times felt like a cruel illusion, a carefully constructed facade hiding a painful truth. One evening, I came home to find Sarah waiting for me in the living room. She looked different, resolute. "David," she said, her voice steady, "I know I've hurt you deeply, and I don't expect you to forgive me easily, but I need you to know that what I feel for you is real." She stood up and walked over to the table, placing a small box in front of me. "This is for you," she said simply. I looked at the box, a sense of finality washing over me. I opened it. Inside was a collection of old photographs, pictures of Sarah and Mark from their college days. The contrast between their youthful happiness and the current devastation was stark. The good memories with Sarah felt like they belonged to a different lifetime. "I kept these," Sarah said quietly, "as a reminder of a part of my life. A part of your life that's inextricably linked to Emily's death and your betrayal of me," I said, my voice flat. The good times felt like a betrayal of Emily's memory. She reached out to take my hand, but I pulled it away. "Don't," I said. "Don't touch me." The years we had spent together flashed through my mind, but now they were all viewed through the prism of her lies. The comfort I had found in her arms after Emily's death now felt like a cruel irony. The good memories offered no solace against this stark reality. "I can't do this, Sarah," I said, the words heavy with finality. "I can't live with this. The lies, the secrets, the betrayal, it's too much. It's broken something inside me." The good times felt like a fading dream, unattainable now. Tears welled up in her eyes. "David, no. Please don't do this. It's already done," I said, my voice cold in. "I'll be in touch with a lawyer." The good times felt like a lie. I turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone in the living room, the box of old memories scattered on the table between us. The pain was sharp, but beneath it, there was a sense of grim resolve. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. Some wounds never truly heal. And sometimes, the only way forward is to cut ties and start over, no matter how much it hurts. The past had finally caught up to us, and it had destroyed everything. The good memories were now just ghosts, haunting the ruins of what we had once shared.